Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the HSTLUP podcast. My name is Clint Crow.
Jonathan Hessing.
And this podcast is dedicated to all the movers and shakers out there grinding past a traditional 40-hour work week to create a life by design and quit living life on default. This episode of the podcast could be brought to you by one of my favorite energy drinks. This is not an ordinary energy drink. It's full of creatine, BCAAs, and it's healthy. None of the bad stuff in it. If only they would give us a sponsorship, it could be brought to you by them.
Wink, wink.
Yeah. If you know somebody at Bang Energy, please reach out. We'd love to get them involved. We'd also love to get Warby Parker involved. If you noticed my stylish new glasses, I picked them up for only $95, which is a steal in comparison to the other shops where you'll end up spending $300 plus or more on glasses. Go to Warby Parker. They send you glasses. You send the ones back you don't like, or you can check out their shop in Atlanta or in your other city. Today we have the pleasure of presenting our first female guest, Miss Monique Jacqueline. She is a certified hustler, former Atlanta Hawks cheerleader, traveling makeup artist, and grinds on the weekends as well. She said she got home at 6 a.m. last night, and she's here.
Yeah.
She's here. She got here at noon today
Ready
to film this
Let's
podcast.
go.
Let's talk about a life by design. What does that mean to you, Monique?
Life by design to me, I guess, could be defined by, that's actually a really good question. So,
It sounds like you're doing it.
Absolutely.
doing it slowly but surely, to me, it's a lot of just doing it as it comes. I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, and a lot of things come to you and you can either take it or leave it, sort of thing. So designing your own life, it's a lot by what you want, but what also the universe is giving you.
That synchronization.
And really just seeing and prioritizing what you want to do. I'd like to not say no. So that's my thing.
That's huge.
I like to not say no, and I like to, even if I think I'm not ready, I'm going to do it anyways. You know, because I'd rather know than not know.
I'm big on that too. Jump in the deep end and learn how to swim. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when was the first time where you were like, okay, I'm going to take the path less traveled, the deviated path?
So when I went to high school, I got a scholarship to one of the biggest art schools. It's called SCAD.
What was that for?
Fashion design.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. I got an academic and a artistic scholarship. But being from a family with 5 kids, and my mom was a single mom at that point,
wow.
I was working 2 jobs, doing athletics and homeschooling my autistic brother and homeschooling myself.
How old were
you? So I was homeschooled my senior year, so I was 18. So at that point, school wasn't looking like the option, even with the scholarship. It's a private art school. So I was like, I'm going to take a year off, work, kind of see where things are leading me at that point, because I had to rely on myself for financial aid and all that stuff, and it was very intimidating having to be owing at the end. I think it was $75,000.
Even after the scholarships?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, wow.
Yeah, so each...
$75,000 on an art scholarship, like for an art degree, which could be really tough to pay back.
Yes, very tough. So at that point, that's when I was like, I'm gonna take a year off, kind of see. So I was working with Michael Kors at that point. And it's funny though, so when you mentioned the cheerleading thing, that's one of the things that fell into my lap.
How did that happen?
So I was working at a nightclub. I was a VIP hostess, and one of the girls I worked with, I told her that I used to cheerlead and dance when I was little, from when I was like 3 to when I was 12. I was constantly in dance recitals and stuff like that. And I told her, I was like, I'm just kind of working to wait for school. And she's like, well, you have the look. She's like, why don't you try out for the Hawks? Because she used to be the team captain.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, I was like 18. I was like, first of all, never thought I'd be an NBA cheerleader.
Yeah.
Like, when you think of that, that's a professional career. That's in front of... So Phillips holds 18,000 people, plus it's a nationally broadcasted game. And I was like, you're crazy. Like, no. I haven't danced in I think it was 5 years at that point.
Wow.
And, you know, obviously that's a very physically demanding career. And I was like, you know what? She's like, just do it. She's like, just start working out. She's like, get as, you know, fit as you can. She's like, stretch. She's like, the rest will be fine. She's like, don't worry about it. I'll tell the coach you're trying out.
Is it hip hop dance or is it a different, what kind of dance is it?
So,
Or what were you trained in?
so I was trained in ballet, and
Okay.
then I was also a cheerleader. So that was like football games and stuff like that. It kind of dabbles both a
Right.
little bit. Cheerleading's a little more structured movements. It's a little more pepping of the crowd. But dancing, you know, obviously is very technique and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's very difficult to upkeep if you're not constantly doing it, or if you take years off, your body's like, oh, I kind of remember what's going on. But so she's like, I'm gonna tell the coach. Sorry. She's like, I'm gonna tell the coach you're trying out. She's like, you're too young to be on the team. Oh, okay. Well, it's been years, so it's not like it's a big deal. But she's like, you're too young to be on the team. But the coach knows. She's like, just try out. If anything, at least you know what to expect
So
next
this
year.
is different than the captain girl that recruited you, right?
No, this is
Oh,
her.
it's same girl.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I ended up trying out. I was the youngest to try out. I was 18. You have to be 19 to be on the team.
So one more question. So from the moment she told you come do this, start stretching and training, getting ready
Right.
again, how long did you have?
I had a year.
Okay.
And at that point, I was working 2 jobs. So I would work out at Lifetime Fitness at 2 in the morning that whole year. Every day I'd get off of work.
You say at 2 in the morning?
Wow.
So I
Because
would
they're
work
24/7s. Wow.
So I would work at Michael Kors, or I would think I was at Aeropostale too at that point, which is like throwback.
So you're doing 2 jobs, working out at 2 in the morning, and you still are taking care of your family.
Or helping
Well,
with my little brother and stuff.
And the VIP hostess. Yeah.
My God.
So I would go. I was at a sports bar, and I was doing retail, and then I started the Opera nightclub.
Do you think the diversity in your workload, though, got you in front of a larger audience? Like, you meet this woman through the nightclub. She gets you into the Hawks. I'm sure you met other people at other jobs. You've got a gym. You have all these different ecospheres in which you're being exposed to. Even geographically, they're in different locations.
Right.
You're covering a wide area. People know you in a number of places.
And you know what else it's doing? It's break. Are you familiar with the term echo chamber?
Mm-mm.
So an echo chamber is internal dialogue. Imagine if your life was lived like your Instagram Explore page,
Right.
and it was these algorithms putting only things you know and you're used to into your life. It seems by taking that and by doing what you did, you're exposing yourself to multiple different crowds, and you're learning different things and having different conversations, which has to be great in the variety of ways that you take information in.
Because I always tell people, I'm like, half the things I've gotten to experience, done, the people I've met, I never would have thought I would have.
Yeah, like right. You said
I
you never thought you'd be a basketball cheerleader.
Never would have thought.
That's insane.
But it's really just opening yourself up is my biggest thing.
Never saying no.
Never saying no. And for sure, just don't even question it. You know, that's my thing. I don't like to question things. And I've had so many opportunities where anybody would be like, oh, there's no way. Like, no way, you know?
Yeah.
But if you're not ready, make yourself ready. Like, mentally. It doesn't even matter if you're physically ready, make yourself mentally, because that's, 90% of the time of what they say you need to be mentally there.
Opportunity meets preparation. And if you're mentally prepared, if you're physically prepared, then that opportunity seems to find you.
That's been my motto lately is, if you stay ready, you don't gotta get ready. So
If you
that's
stay
my-
ready, you don't got to get ready. I love that. Let's bring it back. So, okay, so you have how long until from when the captain tells you until your first tryout to get yourself back in shape of 5 years of not?
So when I was homeschooled, that's when I was working at the club. So I just turned 18. You have to be 18 to work in nightclubs in Atlanta.
Right.
So I was 18, homeschooling. Because at that point, that's when modeling started kicking off for me too, and I kept missing school. So that's when my mom's like, let's just do homeschool. There was a program at my high school where you can work, but report to a teacher and make sure you're staying on track and stuff like that. So at that point, I had the year working at the sports bar down the street from my house, doing retail, doing the nightclub once or twice a week, and then I was training from like 2 in the morning to 4 a.m.
Wow.
And then helping homeschool my little brother and homeschooling myself.
No excuses.
No. But that's always been my personality, is because seeing my mom do it by herself. So my mom moved 5 of us from California by herself. My little brother's autistic.
Wow.
So my mom's the strongest human being. So I've seen her be a muralist. I've seen her be an interior designer. I've seen her do cleaning houses. You know, I've seen her clean office. Like, me and my sister would go with her and help clean. So just saying that, to me, there's no excuse. You know what I'm saying?
You have that example from the lead role model of your life, and you just see how, if she can do it, then I can do it.
Yeah.
And if she can do it with 5 kids, I can do it with no kids.
Yeah.
You know, so even though you're taking care of your family, yeah. Let me ask you something that I've heard and always wondered. Is it true that when you sign your agreement to be a Hawks cheerleader, you can no longer eat ice cream?
Listen, I ate ice cream. I don't know. Like, in the locker room, some girls would, like, so in the arena, there's restaurants upstairs. Some girls would bring ice cream down. We'd have Chick-fil-A, like.
I heard that it was in your agreement that you cannot eat ice cream once you become a cheerleader.
Not that I remember.
You mean that was a myth?
Sounds like
fiction. Right, no, because we would have a contract day, and it was like 3 hours long, and we would literally read page for page and page and page, and we'd have to sign and.
Wow.
No, I mean, there's like rules, but there wasn't.
Were there any crazy rules other than don't eat ice cream?
The one that bothered me was once you sign the line, they do makeovers. So you have to go with whatever they say. So I could have blonde. They didn't really change my look, but one girl, she had like long blonde hair, short, cut her hair, and that's huge for some girls. Like, some girls will cry.
How they control your image.
You can't change anything.
Wow.
So once they like confirm what they kind of want you to look for the year, you can't change it unless they approve it. And for me, you know, being a creative and doing makeup and stuff like that, I'm always constantly like, let me shave my head, let me cut my hair, like whatever. But yeah, that was my biggest thing, because I felt like constrained. I was like, I want to change something, you know. So
what was that experience like of being a cheerleader, and how long did you do it for?
So I did it for 2 years.
Okay.
From when the year I turned 19 to 21.
Okay.
It was the greatest experience. Those girls are my best friends. Like, we still talk to each other, see each other all the time. That energy, when you, like, I always, like, make a joke. I'm like, I'm about to pee my pants. But especially not performing to that degree ever. Yeah. The first time I went on the court, I thought I was going to, like, hyperventilate and die.
Adrenaline.
What a high, though, afterward, right?
Well, because my first year, that was the best they've ever done in years. That was when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah. So constant games, constant appearances. Y'all, it's crazy because it was packed, you know. And then just the recognition we get from social media. We went to the Bahamas that year for our swimsuit calendar, so we were on TV. We were on Sports South with that too. So. And
this was year 1 for you?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Did it feel like getting sucked into the fast lane, or like what is it, where the turtles, you remember Finding Nemo, where the turtles are swimming in the current? Yeah.
Like, the currents.
Yeah. Did it feel like getting pulled into a current that boosted your career or your life?
For sure. Everything, I owe a lot to that opportunity.
It's a catalyst.
Mm-hmm. Shout out Hawks cheerleaders.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of hard work. It's great for the community. You know, we got to, growing up, my mom's a badass. I'm telling y'all, she would have us go to Hosea Fita Hungry for Christmas and stuff. Very cool. To be able to do that and give back to the community as well, they just always made sure that we were doing cheerleading camps for the little girls and stuff like that. So it definitely brought us in front of a lot of people. Nice. You know, I worked with our hairstylist. She was like the contracted hairstylist for us. I worked at her salon, you know.
After the Hawks opportunity? Mm-hmm. Okay. And was that the next thing that you moved into, or? Yeah,
makeup. I mean, I've always had my hands in different parts with makeup. Like, I'm freelance, so I'm not necessarily stuck at one place. So my clients, I travel to my clients. That's kind of like my niche. Is like, I come to my clients, I give them the celebrity treatment. I'll set up my lights, my makeup, my chair. So, but that was definitely one of the opportunities where I got to see how a salon was ran. Basically, everything I've done has taught me the base work if I wanted to go to the next level. So say I wanted to have a salon, I know how to run a salon. Say I want to have a clothing line. I know how Michael Kors does his stuff, his customer service. So everything I've learned, even if it's like one of those jobs you don't want to take, it's preparation.
You've been in training for this your whole life.
Absolutely.
Your entire career.
And that's why having, and I don't know if these were paid or not, and whether they were, regardless, doesn't matter.
Right.
Having that internship or that lower level job is sometimes a blessing if you can be aware, like you were, and understand that if you are aware and recognizing patterns of things that they do successful, all you gotta do is implement. Steve Jobs actually took this quote from someone ironically, but it's good artists paint, great artists steal. And it's not that you are stealing someone's work of art. You're stealing different concepts and patterns and ideas of things that work, and you're implementing them. Steve Jobs wasn't the greatest designer. He wasn't the greatest engineer. He was the greatest curator of all time. And I think that reigns a lot, and that's very important to know from someone who's trying to build that life by design. Is you don't have to jump in immediately and lead it. Work through different infrastructures and become aware and learn what works.
Yeah, you have to humble yourself to a certain extent because, you can't just go straight there.
Right.
You can't. There's unless you're born into money and the connections already, which 95% of us aren't.
Yeah, but even then, it's the most generational wealth is lost by the third generation because there is none of that struggle. There's none of the preparation. There's something about that going through it, learning the process. Even Chick-fil-A. If you want to become an owner-operator with Chick-fil-A, they put you on an owner-operator track where you start and you work every position in the company for, sometimes it's a number of months, sometimes it's just long enough to understand that position. Then you move to the next one, but by the time that you've graduated their program, you've got that franchise.
They figured it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's kind of, like what I was telling y'all, like, I've done, like, retail, I've done bottle service, I was a waitress, a hostess, but at the end of the day, if I ever wanted to open a restaurant, it's there. I know how to do it.
So is your, now we'll dial it back, but just because it's relevant right now, what's your 5-year goal? And if you reverse engineer that, is everything you're doing working up to that?
Yeah, so I try to stay on track as much as I can. Next to my bed, I have 2 sheets of paper with my goals and everything like that.
So you do write your goals down?
Yes,
and
yes.
You affirm them and read them every day?
Huge about it,
yes. That's so important.
Because it's close enough to my bed to where if I look at it, I can read it from there, So the season I'm in right now is tackling everything that I need in order to go next. So I've paid off all my debt. I've gotten all my taxes because I was a little bit behind on my taxes, so I got those caught up. All my loans are paid off. My credit's getting higher, so like I have nothing really holding me back financially. So now I'm more in the steps of starting to get things done. So my 5-year plan is to go to fashion school. That's always been my passion, and with the scholarship and stuff. So I'm working on doing a study abroad program in Italy with one of the biggest fashion schools in New York. So if that works out, I'm still doing my portfolio and stuff.
If that works out, y'all heard it here first.
Yeah,
boom,
so
boom,
I'm
boom.
excited. But that's a year program. So that's studying under, Italy, and Milan's like one of the biggest cities for fashion.
So you're going to live out there for a whole year?
That's the plan.
Are you a big traveler?
I love traveling.
Yeah? What is it about traveling?
I love culture and I love people, and the Hispanic community is huge on embracing, and we're very loving, and we're so to me, I love to.
Are you Hispanic?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
What are you?
So we took the DNA thing.
Hey,
oh, nice.
23andMe. Yeah.
And so originally we thought we were French, Spaniard, Mexican, and Irish. I'm actually Middle Eastern, Mexican, Spaniard, Irish, and some Indian tribe in Mexico. Yeah. So
from all corners of the world.
all of it. Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's the first plan, is to kind of do school. I can sew, but I really want to master it. I'm a perfectionist, so if I feel like I'm not necessarily there to produce a quality product, I don't like to do it. I don't like to put my name on it. Right. So that's probably like my biggest goal right now. I do have other ideas that I want to do, but I feel like I want to align myself first, Like I said, you gotta get ready and stay ready in order for it to come to
Put
you.
yourself in position to win.
So, you know, it's just about saving right now, doing school. Eventually, I want to move back up to New York, so that's kind of my plan right now.
Back up? Did you live there for a time?
Yeah, so it's actually, y'all, I have the craziest stories. So people are always like, Monique, you're crazy.
Good. Keep it
So, I worked for Scott Gerber and Randy Gerber. They created Casamigos tequila, and they actually sold it for $1 billion, I think.
Wow.
But they have a line of lounges and restaurants throughout New York, Atlanta, Miami, and LA. And I was working for them, and Marriott bought out Starwood, and that's the hotel I was in. So they gave us a month notice, and they're like, hey, by the way, y'all, you guys have been working here for years, but you're not going to have a job anymore. And I was like, okay, well, that's a huge part of my income. And I was like trying to save, and like, because school has always been my thing. I'm like, I want to go to school.
Living in New York too is not cheap.
It's not cheap. So, so this was the hotel in Midtown in Atlanta. And they were like, hey, you have like 3-4 weeks to like kind of figure out what you want to do. And like I said, I don't like to say no. I like, if an idea comes in my head, I'm going to try it regardless. Yeah. And I've always wanted to live in New York. And I think I had like, y'all, this is terrible, but I had like $300 saved. And at this point, I was like, well, excuse my language, but shit, like, what am I supposed to do, you know?
We swear on here.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's a shitty situation.
I mean, I'm not a swear, but, you know. So I told my mom, I was like, look, I'm going to get a one-way. I'm going to go. I packed one suitcase, my makeup kit, and $300.
$300 in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
And luckily, I had really great friends that let me stay with them for a week. And then I ended up staying on my friend's couch for like 3 months. And yeah, I kind of went from there. You know, I got a job right away. I was training with MAC Cosmetics up there. They're the largest distributor for makeup artists for Fashion Week. So when you work up there, it's retail, but they focus a lot more on fashion and actually like developing makeup artists for Fashion Week and
like the experience around it.
Yes. So I got hired at the 5th Avenue location, and all those artists are huge. They have been in Vogue. They've been in everything. So I got to like firsthand learn and watch, and they were so nice and giving and just, what do you want to learn? What's going on? And at that point, I was doing makeup for a year. So I had like a good base, but that just took my level completely different. Yeah. It definitely showed me editorial and fashion, and now that's like my favorite thing to do. But yeah, and they're like, well, once you get settled, you know, they have a program where they can train you, and then they'll take you to Fashion Week and do photo shoots and all that stuff. So it was just a really cool experience, you know, being around it. And I always tell people, I'm like, y'all have to be ready for New York. Because when I was there, I'd wake up at 6 a.m., just walk the blocks, Google stuff, and start knocking on designer doors and just
That's the fucking
in.
hustle right there.
And
you're sleeping on a friend's couch at this point? Let's go, man.
Y'all, it was like October, and it was 30 degrees, and I had Michael Kors, like, boots, and that stuff is not made for the snow. And I was like, what the hell is this shit? Like, nobody told me it's this cold and rainy.
In case the mic didn't pick that up, she said, that's like, what the hell is
Because
this?
I had like a little wool coat, and I thought, you know, Atlanta winter is completely different, y'all.
Oh, it's not the same.
Will smack you in the face and then tell you your life real quick. And I was like, Jesus Christ. But New York is just so inspiring, y'all. Like,
Absolutely.
that, people always get mad at me. They're like, well, why don't you want to stay in Atlanta and like really try to grow here? New York just speaks to my heart. Like, it's just like my soul feels at peace. Not like, oh, I want to be comfortable there. It like makes my soul be like, all right, let's get it. Like,
well, it's the epicenter of cultural diversity.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, the art there is insane.
It's gotta be
insane.
So I want to touch on something that you brought up 3 times in your what you just spoke about, which is experiential marketing, right? So you talked about this fashion thing and how they worked with the makeup artist in an event experience-based way. You talked about the tequila and how they built these, were they restaurants or little hotel, or what were they?
So how they did it was they had a lease in the lounges of really big hotels. And so it was kind of like rent inside of a building, I guess you could say. So like, say it's like a mall, they had their own little area.
Right.
So they just had it in huge hotels. So it was really cool.
And they create the experience around you. And then the other thing was how you create the experience for your customers by bringing the lights, or I don't want to call them customers. What's your verbiage?
I call them my clients.
Your clients. So you come over there with the lights and the mirrors, and you give them this, you're a celebrity for an hour kind of feeling.
Right.
So the importance of experiential marketing can be summed up in a meme I saw once. Have you seen it? It's like a watermelon, and then it's like a glass of watermelon juice, and it's like $5. And then it's like a watermelon with a watermelon juice with like a plate of food next to it. It's like $10. And it's like a watermelon with a glass of juice and a plate of food like sitting on a beach, $25, $30. And it's like how creating that experience, it's not more that you just charge for it, but that you make a more memorable.
And obviously, you would choose the
You're
beach
creating
and the
a feeling.
watermelon and the food. That's
Right.
The first thing
You want to give, and that's why you do that, I assume. So how did you know early on that the traveling, and when you travel, give them this you're a celebrity for an hour feeling? Was that something that was innate to you?
Well, so there's two reasons. So the honest truth is I couldn't afford a studio space.
Okay.
And so to keep my overhead down and to keep loans or whatever I needed to do in order to have that space, I was like, I'm just going to drive to them. It's easy. They don't have to drive to me. They can get ready at their house. They don't have to do traffic. I'll do traffic. I'll charge a little more, but I'll do traffic. But a lot of makeup artists don't do that. A lot of them, Atlanta's known more for like having like little studio spaces or little boutiques or stuff like that, and they will come to you, but they're gonna charge a lot more.
Why do you think that is?
I don't really know. I kind of came in at a weird time because a lot of these makeup artists have been doing it for years.
Like before the internet?
Yeah. So I'm kind of like almost Instagram makeup artist, but then I'm not, because a lot of the time my clients I've gotten from networking and doing stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain. And then the other reason is I'm all about glam, and I've known what it's felt like to be at a photo shoot and have my makeup and hair done, and how fun it is, and being in the comfort of your home. And so to me, I'm just like, it's easy.
So you got to experience a special feeling. And you said, I like this so much, other people will like this too. So you're creating that similar feeling that you felt being a Hawks cheerleader,
Right.
And replicating that for the average person, or do you have a specific type of client base? Do you work with film, or what's?
So I've kind of dabbled in everything. Me and my sister do weddings during the summer. So in the past 2 years, myself, I've done maybe 45, 50 weddings.
Wow.
And I've been very blessed, y'all. Like, a lot of the time, I feel like 95% of it's networking. Like, especially with, like, artists kind of careers. But so I'll do weddings. I've done a TV show for E! and that was solely me reaching out to the girl that was on the show, and I was like, do you need a makeup artist?
Wow.
I've never done film before, and I was like, we'll just kind of go with it. But it ended up turning out great.
Hold on, real quick. How did you get in touch with her, and how did you know she was the one to get in touch with?
So she cheered for the Falcons, and it's a very small networking.
Community.
All of us know each other. And she went to Spelman, and her PR girl was one of my best friends. And so she was like, yeah, she's going to be doing a show for Entertainment. It's called Wags of Atlanta. She was like, yeah, I'm starting to get her stuff together. And I was like, ask her if she needs a makeup artist. I was like, just ask her, like, see. And that was a really cool experience, because then I got to see how film was done, how TV makeup's done. It was a lot of trial and error, for sure. But yeah, it's really cool to see your work on TV, especially like that huge of a network. That was really cool. But I'm doing more photo shoots now. I like the creative freedom, and I like the pace of it. I like to see the photographer doing it, see what it looks like in lens, you know, touching up, doing hair and stuff like that. To me, that's more fun. I do have clients that go out and, you know, do that stuff. But to me, that's my favorite, is like editorial fashion sort of stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to zone
your
in
Instagram
more.
gallery is on point. I looked at
Thank
her website,
you.
guys. We'll shout it out. Links at the end. All of the makeup looks like superstar status, and I love the idea that she's not just a makeup artist. She has experienced this feeling as a Hawks cheerleader, as this glorified fame, and it's creating that experience back for the customer. You will look and feel like a superstar if Monique does your makeup.
And that's what
It's creating that experience.
It is, and on a macro, like that's what I feel like business is how can you get to as many people and provide them with high vibrational, high frequency energy.
Yeah.
You know, that's at least where business I feel like is heading in this new generation now that, you know, the large fiscally focused corporations are moving out of the way. And there's really a new paradigm of entrepreneurs that are rising from the millennial generation. And it's about how can we make people feel the best?
Yeah.
How can we create the best experiences that people not only remember, but want to duplicate themselves? So I commend you for that, because that recognizing that early and moving on that is huge for real.
Well, and that's what creates the referrals too.
Right.
It's not just that the makeup looked good. It's and that's half of it, right? Makeup can't look bad.
Right.
But it's that they left glowing. It's that they felt it. So of course they tell their friends.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So you've obviously been a hustler for a long time. You recognized early you wanted to live a life by design. You don't say no. You jump in the deep end and learn how to swim. That comes with a lot of fucking failure. And that's just
a
facts.
lot.
A lot of it. So how do you remain mentally durable?
A lot of it is remembering that there really is no failure. To me, I'm proud of myself for recognizing the seasons I'm in. This past season was a lot of spiritual and mental growth, and just really getting a foundation and just understanding what I want and who I am. I think that's huge for anybody.
Let's talk about that. What does spiritual mental growth mean to you?
So, like you said, it takes a lot on somebody to be an entrepreneur, and I think especially as an artist, I'm very sensitive about my craft and just myself, and I'm very hard on myself. And for a long time, like, I'm gonna be honest, like, there was a 6-month period where I didn't want to get out of bed. Like, I was just over it. I was like, I don't want to do makeup anymore. I'm just done with everything.
Happen?
Not necessarily. It was just a lot of things all at once, almost. And I come from a family. My mom, she's the greatest lady.
Yeah.
But she always told me, like, it's do or die. Like, you gotta, you know. And just seeing that life really is short is kind of a reminder, like, we got to get to it. You know?
You can't turn it off. You can't make life quit.
And
it's gonna keep
you
going.
have to talk to yourself. I think people feel weird about recognizing what's really going on, and like a lot of people like to ignore what's going on, and a lot of people like to push it to the side, but then later on deal with it and then have it affect other things. I don't like doing that. I really like to learn my lesson as it's coming and not later on. I don't like to revisit things. I don't like to relearn things, you know. So at that point, you know, I've been living with my mom for the past 2 years, I guess. And a lot of people look down on it. They're like, you're 23, why are you living with your mom? That's kind of like, people think, oh, you should have a house, you should have an apartment, you should be living on your own. But honestly, I would not take it back, because you learn a lot from your parents growing up. But as an adult, you're really listening and you're really hearing, and you're hearing their wisdom, you know? So I've learned so much from my mom in the past 2 years than I probably in my whole life.
And as a child, it's difficult to separate that role of parents and human, right? Like, you don't see your parents as humans, you see them as almost like gods, right? And as an adult, you get to study them as a human, and so, like you said, soak in that wisdom, soak in that advice. It just means something different.
Yeah, I definitely seek counsel from her, and, you know, it's one of those things where you can't get these lessons just by, you know, it's an irreplaceable, valuable thing you can learn, and I'm not ashamed about it. People be like, where you live? I'm like, I live with my mom 40 minutes, like, listen, you know.
We have a big quote that goes like, live like others won't so you can live like others can. And that's a big piece of it. you're sacrificing your early 20s, or what a lot of people think is being normal, routine, or fun in their early 20s, to live a life that is in a higher echelon than most people even. A lot of people think it's just a dream. Like when you're a kid, and when I was a kid and I was like, I want to be in the NBA or an astronaut, that's been dialed back a little bit to
sort of, I want to be a billionaire.
A billionaire. Well, that's what we're at now, right? And it's like that's realistic and tangible. It has been
no,
dialed
because it's like I've had people. I remember I was dating this one guy, and him and I are perfectly fine. We forgave each other, but what he told me was, he's like, realistically, what are you doing with your life? And that, y'all, that made I'm not a crier. I don't usually. I'm like whatever. But that literally tore my soul up, like, for, like, weeks.
While you're in hustler mode.
This was, this was maybe, like, 3 months ago.
Oh, my.
And this was a guy that I was dating for months. So, like, I really invested, like, emotionally time. And, you know, women are very emotional creatures. So when he said that, I take pride in what I do, you know. I take pride in my journey. I take pride in the woman I am in general, you know. So when he said that, I was like... I wanted to tell him to shove it where the sun don't shine, but the growth in me didn't even respond.
That's
the
huge.
Old me, like I said, this season has been about growth and being at peace with myself. I didn't say nothing. I was like, okay, block, like, you know.
Yeah. How do you handle? Because that's one of the most important things, is having a grip and handling your emotions, not letting your emotions handle you. For me, the best way that I do that is I meditate every day. 1:30 p.m. I go to the park. I meditate 10-15 minutes. And I come back. And like we were talking about that on one of our last podcasts, which is sometimes in terms of results or where you want to go, the best way to speed things up is to just slow it down. And when you can just clear your mind and give yourself that. So that's what I do for me. So how do you, and especially like you said, being a woman, you guys are biologically more of an emotional creature. How do you deal with that?
So I do my little meditations throughout the day.
Nice.
So every night I take a bath and I'll have my computer and I'll listen to my devotionals or a church service, or just sit down, no phone, nothing, and just relax. Or like throughout the day, like if I'm driving, I'll listen to my gangsta stuff, or, you know, but a lot of the time I'll just turn on Chris Tomlin is one of my favorite Christian artists, or I'll just turn on my church playlist and just listen, just to calm and just really get an overview of like what's going on, and just find peace and remind myself of how grateful I should be. But yeah, that's really, I try to have a constant little reminder, like, it's okay, relax.
Do you pray?
Yes.
You know what? I just read in a book last night. Can you hear me that book? Actually, I'll read a little piece from it because it really touched me. And it talked about prayer, and I actually read it right before you came in. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Hold on. Okay, so it says, "Never will I pray for the material things of the world. I'm not calling to a servant to bring me food. I'm not ordering an innkeeper to provide me with room. Never will I seek delivery of gold, love, good health, petty victories, fame, success, or happiness. Only guidance will I pray." And I think that's huge, because a lot of, you know, the reason I ask if you pray is because I want to know, like, what is it how do you pray? And is prayer different than meditation for you?
Yeah, so when I pray, it's more of a conversation.
Okay.
To me, my relationship with whatever being, or, you know, wherever you seek peace, to me is very personal. So like, to me, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna get on my knees and, you know, I'm just constantly talking, and, you know, especially during situations, I'm like, just help me find peace. Because at the end of the day, I don't ask for those things, because I know what's for me will always be for me. And I was told one time, if you follow your passion, money and success and all these things will always come. You know, especially if it's, when you have something on your heart, that's a God-given thing. You know what I'm saying? That's your soul talking to you. That's telling you your destiny. You just really have to listen to what your soul and what your spirit is telling you. So it's more just like talking. I'm like, Lord Jesus, like somebody, like, you know, it's really just a conversation for me, or just like thoughts, positive thinking. Just, I don't think it necessarily has a face, or like an definition almost. I'm like traditional, but then I'm not, because I'm always like, you know, I want to keep things simple, but it's almost, I don't know. Yeah.
No, I agree. I come from a traditional upbringing too, and I'm very open-minded and progressive thinking. Like, I take things, you know, I take things from from meditation, from Indian culture, from Buddhism,
Right.
from the Bible, everything. And you just got to find what your truths are and what works for you and makes you the highest frequency. What's one thing that you mentioned early on that's super important to this, but the action version of this is giving back. They say that money can't buy happiness, but then they also said that the only way money can buy happiness is if you buy something for someone else. And then it makes you
an act of service or
act of service. And so is that still something that you actively do?
I try to. It's funny because the other day me and my friend were researching, because I love little kids. The older I get, I'm like, I love babies. But we were researching how to volunteer at like a children's hospital or something like that, because I do miss that aspect, is being involved. Anytime I get the chance, I really do try to whether it's pass on like encouragement, when there's homeless people, or just try to do little things, because they mean just as much as big things.
Absolutely, the little things are the big things.
When you say get involved, you miss doing that. Is that something you did frequently as a cheerleader?
Cheerleader growing up, my mom would always have us deliver food to senior citizens, and we'd always go to the facilities and talk to them and hang out with them. And that's one of the things that I will definitely instill when I have kids, is constantly trying to do stuff and being involved with the church. Like we'd always we'd write letters to soldiers and stuff like that, so it's just one of those things where it's definitely a feeling you can't get from anywhere else.
Well, how did your mom find these opportunities? Was it through the church?
So one of the churches we went to was St. Michael's, and one of my best friend's mom, she had a home for abused women with children. So my mom was an interior designer, so she would go help decorate the houses, and we'd go and play with the kids and help them set up the beds and stuff like that. And then, Hosea Feed the Hungry and stuff like that. We lived in a really nice neighborhood, so all the moms and stuff would get all of us together, and we'd go do that and stuff for Christmas. So yeah, it's, I guess, different outlets you would kind of just reach into and do that. But
you mentioned something that sounded like love languages earlier, acts of service. Have you read that book? Do you know about the 5 love languages?
I know a little bit of it. I know what mine are, but as far as like understanding, but I think I know mine because I'm just very aware of how I am.
Okay.
But I haven't really read it or done anything like that.
If you're looking for a partner, are you paying attention to compatible or similar love languages?
Yes, and it's been very difficult.
Yeah.
Dating now is like, I gave up on that. I'm like, whatever at this point.
Well, it's tough to fit in when you're...
No, not permanently. No.
When you're on the hustle, it can be... the most difficult thing about dating while you're on the hustle is finding a partner that also understands the hustle. And that can be... I mean, that's 90% of the battle.
Right. No, for sure. It, it's just, I think, when you're a woman with such strong convictions and you have such a clear idea of how things are. So for me, I've always known how my life is going to end up, whether it's God telling me, what my purpose is, or I've just always gone where I felt I needed to go.
Intuition.
Yeah. And it's worked out so far, so I'm not really questioning it. But it's almost a lot for some people. And I've come to terms with that. And like I said, living with my mom at this age, I think is very detrimental for young women, because a lot of the time they seek peace and validation outside. And to me, I feel like, those 6 months where I was like not happy and, not necessarily feeling great about everything, I learned to not do that. And that's where I'm like finally at peace with just being okay with not dating, because I feel like people are always, I want to talk to these guys. I want to, and it's just at this point, it's like, I'm cool by myself. Like, like no Nobody's sun's making my skin break out. Nobody's stressing me out. I don't have to yell at anybody.
It goes
So.
back to the luck and opportunity and preparation. You're preparing yourself.
Yeah.
When the opportunity does present itself, you won't be dependent.
You're ready.
You're ready.
And a lot of the time is like, I just see people stressing out. I see people adding to the baggage that they're eventually going to do. And it's just like with the baggage and the obstacles I have with just like my life and my career, it's like I'm really not trying to add any more baggage, you know?
Parents used to tell me, you carry yourself with you wherever you go. And
you always take something from each person you encounter. So it's like,
if you got something that you need to work out now, go ahead and work it out, because you're either gonna take it into the next relationship or you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, and there's this devotional. I've literally watched it. It's a 7 series. I've watched it maybe 5 times through, and it's called Before the Person.
We'll link it right here.
Yeah,
if
it's
you're
really
listening,
cool.
It's in our blog.
It's Transformation Church, but he talks about your purpose, and basically God gives you purpose, a place, provision, all before you are supposed to meet somebody. And he said you're
Say that again, purpose, place, provision?
Yeah, sorry. And that was a huge eye-opener, because I'm like, okay, am I in the place I need to be in?
Okay.
Am I in the purpose? And then provision, like what all am I adding to myself before I add to somebody else?
What do you mean by that?
So essentially what he was saying is, it's just like the greatest thing, and it's like 6 videos in my head. But what he was saying is your singleness is the most important thing you can ever master in your entire life, apart from your purpose, anything. How you are as a whole will determine everything else.
So it bothers me when people say, this is my other half, this person completes me. It implies, when I hear that, oh, this person completes me, oh, you're broken.
Right. You're like, you're not whole, you're kind of almost there, halfway there. Yeah, and he talks about being whole, and really it's like somebody should add to you. You're not.
Yeah. No.
You should be perfectly fine.
Should be complementary. It's, you know, to me it's a lot like business to a degree, where I'm not going to go look for someone who's got the same skill sets as me. If I'm a marketer or a salesperson, I'm going to go look at someone who can do finances.
Right.
When I'm dating a girl, I'm looking for a girl who can, you know, kind of, I want to say kind of nurture, because I'm out like, I'm like you, right? I'm out hustling, life by design, working as many jobs, doing the podcast all weekend, working all day, doing a second marketing company all night. And it's like, you need that right kind of complementary skill set.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And especially the more aware of it, the smaller the pool gets.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why I feel like the entrepreneurial community and the hustling community, even in Atlanta, but the greater America, it gets tighter and tighter. You start seeing the same people at the same events, and it's a small pool.
It really
or it's a smaller pool than the general community.
And then even if you draw another parallel to business, right? So if you imagine, I think I've used this metaphor right now, and for the people listening, I'm sorry you can't see my hands, but it's like if you start at the base of the mountain, that's where you have your idea. And then the next level up the mountain is those who can execute step 1, and a vast amount of people fall off there. Then once you execute that, you've got to have the patience to fail, and keep going. And that's where most people fall. And then there's more stages where people fall off.
How many people get to the top of Everest?
Exactly. Right. Bingo. And how many people do it with no shirt or shoes on, like Wim Hof, right?
Wim Hof, or oxygen tank.
Yeah, right. So Wim Hof is someone awesome, but that's a story for a different time. So it's like relationship is the same thing. You have people who meet phase 1, right? And then you have people who meet phase 2. And by the time you get to the top of that mountain, how many people are there really where they're compatible for, place, provision, and purpose, where it's like a fit, a puzzle piece fit. Yeah. So that's very interesting.
I'm telling y'all should watch it, whatever you believe in.
Did you
call
it Before the Person?
Yes, it's called Before the Person, Transformational Church. Whatever you believe in, you can take the religion out, whatever you feel you're comfortable with, but just the underlining message is huge.
Yeah,
I've watched it 5 times, y'all.
Again, if you're watching, you want to hit a boom for me real quick. If you're watching, we got a link right here. Boom, boom. And if you're listening, it's in our blog. And one thing that you just said that's interesting is in regards to religion and philosophy and science, if you take the meta parts away from all of that and you don't, like, the Bible to me is as practical as it is religious. And things like this, no matter where you circumvent from, if you can find the practical parallels within them, I agree. There's definitely common principles throughout all these things that will drive your life and your relationships and everything forward.
Take the people out of religion. That's my thing, is because I was born Catholic. So I was baptized Catholic. My mom was, you know, we're Spanish, so that's a huge part of our cultures, Catholicism. But just growing up, I think the Catholic Church is beautiful. You know, it's one of the old, you know, it's just, it has history, you know. But what I've noticed is a lot of the practices are mandated by man, you know. And I think the relationship is what is for me, you know, like, that's why I'm non-denominational now, is because it's a relationship between me. I don't need somebody to tell me that I have to do this in order to get to heaven.
You feel connected to a higher power without all the perceivably man-made stipulations involved in that. No, I'm the same way. I believe there's a higher power, and that's why I'm big on, like, finding your truths in different things, because when you identify as one thing, and we talked about this in our first episode, and it was all about open-mindedness, but when you identify with one thing, you kind of close your senses, your ears, your heart, your eyes, you close them to other things, and you don't know that meditation is great for mental health because it comes from Hinduism. You don't know that, you know, Buddhism is one of my favorite things because it's, I had a quote in my Instagram bio, it used to be, the greatest desire is to desire nothing. And I like to, you know, kind of parallel all these things through science, philosophy, and religion.
Desire is nothing.
Yeah, and it's so true. Yeah, because, you know, I'm sure you've heard never have expectations.
That's my big...
You love that?
Yeah, I'm learning that.
Yeah,
that's my thing, is I'm learning that.
Because nothing works out as you think it will. It's either going to be, I don't even want to say worse, but it's going to be different, right? It may not work out worse or better, but it's going to be different. And the steps that you take there will never be
what you thought.
Exactly, yeah. And so that's, you know, tying it back to something you said at the beginning, not saying no, jumping in the deep end, learning how to swim. That's why that's important. I believe that intelligence is adaptability. And I mean, what do you think? Like, do you agree, like, that adapting is everything in every situation? Well, of course you agree. Look at your history.
Yeah, no, I think when, like you said, the steps you don't know and the opportunities you don't know, because it's like when, this is probably the craziest thing I've ever done in my entire life. So it's like, not crazy in a sense, like wild, but like the biggest opportunity that I literally just took, you know? And when I was in New York, like I said, I was knocking on designer doors.
That's awesome, by the way.
There's this designer in New York. It's called St. John. I don't know if y'all know who St. John is.
The artist?
St. John is a designer.
Okay.
It's this huge 2-story. It's on 5th Avenue. They're very well known in like the older fashion district. But I walked in and there was a girl around my age, and I asked her. This was at the point where I was like, I just want to meet anybody at this point.
Yeah.
And she was one of their sale consultants. And I was like, do y'all have anybody that's trying to market towards the younger crowd? Because they're kind of older women demographic, very well tailored, but more like business suits. And
upper class, 35 and up.
Y'all, like their suits were like $4,000.
Wow.
And I asked her, I was like, how's y'all's, do you guys have any influencers or anything like that? She's like, no. She's like, but let me talk to my manager, because anything I can do with fashion, I'm trying to style, I'm trying to take anything I can at that point. So it's crazy. So it was, their spring collection was just made. So it was winter, so you know spring's coming up. She goes, the designer for the spring collection is going to be here next week. Do you want to have a meeting with her? So this is the woman that lives in New York, LA, travels back and forth. She creates the whole thing. So they have their showroom upstairs, and she goes, I set up a meeting. She's going to personally walk you by every piece for the spring collection. You're going to see it before anybody, before Vogue, before anybody. She's like, she's going to talk to you about fabric. She's going to talk to you about everything.
Wow.
So she took me, y'all, literally the craziest thing, and just because I walked in. And I'm like, you don't know, you know. And so
Put yourself out there. Put that energy out
yeah,
there.
and
See what's
she
available.
walked me through everything, got to see each handmade piece. It was all handmade. It wasn't,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And so she ended up talking to the marketing director, and they're like, they want you to be the face, or, you know, start working to market to the younger group and start doing
That's
blogs and
huge.
stuff like that. But the only thing that stopped me, y'all, was because to have those clothes on me or to take them out of the store, I needed a deposit. So if anything happened to them, and of course, not being well prepared,
Yep.
I didn't have the money to deposit just for them to hold it. And so that stopped me from the opportunity. But that's the only thing.
Wow.
And I'm
That's
like,
insane.
you just have to go, you know? And for me, that was like the biggest aha moment, was like, don't question it, just do it. If it comes, even if it's a small idea, you know, I was like, I'm just gonna go in here. I was like, I don't know what designer it is. I've never heard of them before.
And can you repeat that name?
St. John.
St. John.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that a lot of companies, because perceivably from someone who's on social media a lot, it seems that a lot of these corporations already are in the game of influencer marketing and social media marketing, but that seems to not be true. From your knocking on doors and through your straight up hustle, is that an open market that people who are our age and younger people can still work into, even though they're bureaucratic corporations? That
Yeah, I think so, because at the end of the day, at that point, I was just an ex-NBA cheerleader, just started doing makeup. I think at that point I had maybe 5,000 followers on Instagram. I didn't necessarily have the influencer page, and I still don't. Like, I don't consider myself an influencer. I'm not marketing any products or anything like that, but
what is an influencer page? Is that the check, or is that turning your profile into a business profile?
so my page is a business, but it's more like brands and them doing reviews and kind of almost creating this facade of different brands and making it seem like it's regular or obtainable by whoever's following you.
Okay.
But I just wrote a proposal. I was like, this is why I think I would be great. And they took it. So I was like, okay, I didn't question it. I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
But I think you have to be sincere about your intentions with things. You have to understand that people are gonna say no. They just happen to say yes.
Dealing with rejection is one of the most important things.
And it goes back to that idea that if you're ambitious, if you're knocking doors and you're getting after it, people can take that attitude and they can train you on the clothing. They can train you on the software. But you can't take somebody who doesn't have that ambition and train it into them. So when somebody shows up on your doorstep hungry and ready to represent you, maybe, we can take them through the process. Hopefully they've created that system, and if they haven't, you might be their opportunity to create the system.
Yeah, because if you think about it, at one point they needed somebody. At one
Anybody-
point they were that person.
They were that
successful,
person. And you want to, like we come back to finding complementary skill sets. You want to find the people with the complementary skill sets, but like we talked about in the first podcast, you want to find the people who morally align with your vision and where you want to go. Because like you were saying, Clint, like you can learn the software, you can learn the minute nuanced details, but you can't learn what's in here. You can, but it takes a lot of character building if it's not innately in there. And the fact that you're out there knocking on doors and doing it in the cold with boots that aren't made for that weather.
Cold. No, it's terrible.
You straight up live a life by design, and this is exactly what this podcast is about. And I think that whether you're a male or female, guy or girl, you've gotten a lot of value from this podcast. You said a lot of this has been incredible. You said a lot of things that resonate with me. I'm sure you feel the same, and I know a lot of our listeners, and I hope we get a lot of females on this podcast, because you said some things that really will motivate that girl who may be stuck in that feedback loop that you talked about of why living with your parents would be detrimental, and if you don't have that self-love, if you don't have that handle on your emotions.
And let's put that energy out there. If you are a lady hustler, if you're a female boss, if you're getting after it, we'd love to have you on the show.
Come on over, girl.
Yeah, come on. Let's put that out for more people to hear, more people to listen to.
Absolutely. So how can people get in touch with you? What's your Instagram?
So my website is moniquejacqueline.com.
Boom, boom, boom.
And then I have my Instagram page, which is going to be at Monique Jacqueline with 2 E's at the end. That's the only difference. difference.
Boom, boom, boom.
And then those are the only two I use. I try to keep it simple.
Yeah.
I try not to spread myself too thin.
And people can email you from the website?
Yes, they can email me. My email is contact@moniquejacqueline.com, and that's one E.
Cool.
But yeah, no, really, I just want people to know that, like, no matter what season y'all are in, don't take it as a setback. Take it as you're planted. Don't think you're buried in all this obstacles. Don't think, the opportunity's dead. I saw this meme, I guess, or picture on Instagram, and it says the last thing to grow on a plant is the fruit. So, you have your soil, you have your roots, you have the actual plant sprouting through, but at the end of the day, the sweet part's the end,
And never forget about the roots, because that's all the failure underground that people don't know about.
It's going to be a lot of self-doubt. It's going to be a lot of slow seasons. I've had a lot of slow seasons, y'all. I've had points where I've had $1 in my bank account. Still, sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
So success, or whatever your perception of that is, no matter how successful, it's still going to be that. And I just say, find at least one person, or try to be that person for yourself, to where you can seek counsel and just have somebody be your peace in moments where you don't have any for yourself. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, that reminds me of another meme I've seen. I'm sure you've all seen it. Is what does it say? It says something to the tune of, "They tried to put me in the dirt, but they didn't know I was a seed."
And it's like, here we are.
Here we
Just
are.
Start watering it. Let the storm,
Let it go.
take care of it.
And the fruit will come. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on this.
Thanks
You gave a
for
lot of
having
value.
me.
If you want to get any makeup done or do any work with Monique, reach out to her. Never say no. Live a life by design. Jump in the deep end. Learn how to swim. Adapt. Follow us at HSTLUP. Boom, boom, boom. If you're listening, we've got some awesome stuff in the blog. If you're watching, we are linked up in all the videos. Follow us again, www.HSTLUP.com. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Clint.
Thank you, Monique. And until next time, thank you guys.